This podcast is brought to you by Infinite Resources, a local staffing agency connecting diverse job candidates in central Iowa companies.
Amplified.
Hello, everyone. This is Kenny Lilly from Do the Math 24/7. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Math Talk. Today we have a special guest, Miss Rachelle Long. How you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Good, good. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Before we go into the conversation, I first want to briefly discuss the breakdown of my company, Do the Math 24/7. So Do the Math 24/7 is a positive message that is broken down into 5 basic math symbols. We have for add self-respect, add kindness, add empathy. For subtract bullying, subtract injustice, subtract stereotypes. For multiply love, multiply unity, multiply understanding. For divide, it's indivisible, meaning unable to be separated or divided. We're stronger together as a body of people when we work together versus being divided. Equal stands for equality, equal rights, and equal opportunity. And 24/7 stands for all the time. So there you go, Do the Math 24/7. We have several different ways in which we spread our positive message. We have a school fundraising program. We have a character building program. We have an apparel line. We do public speaking, and we also have a podcast. We are a community partner with the Des Moines Public School District, the Ankeny Community School District, CFUM, which is Children, Family, and Urban Development, as well as the Boys and Girls Club of Central Iowa. So, definitely take a look at us on social media. There's several different ways in which we want to get our message out there. So, but with that, again, thank you for joining us, Miss Rachelle.
Thank you.
So, Miss Rachelle does a lot of different things, very influential in the community. She is the founder of Taste of the Junction, which is pretty much a nonprofit, right? And it's an umbrella to the Taste of the Junction Multicultural Festival, as well as the Junction Speaks, as well as the Pop-Up Museum. So located in Valley Junction area, but you have a deep roots in the Valley Junction area through your family, right?
I really do. Yeah,
Yes.
I really do.
So, we're talking about 6 generations.
At least.
Yeah. And that's 6 generations of, working with the city, making sure that the city is doing their part to enhance Valley Junction area. Is that correct?
And that is correct. My mom and dad were huge advocates for that. They wanted to make sure that as West Des Moines was growing, they told the city, don't forget about the junction. Don't forget about the people. As we're growing, as we're building, make sure that some of those resources and infrastructures that needed to be repaired were not forgotten.
Nice. So a little history. How did your family migrate? Why Valley Junction?
Right. Well, a lot of families, including ours, my grandparents on both sides, came in the early 1900s, and it was the railroad.
Okay.
Coming in on Rock Island. My mom's father, he worked with Rock Island, and my dad's father, he was at a cement plant on Park Avenue. And but a lot of the people that migrated to Valley Junction, it was because of the railroad, Rock Island. That's why Valley Junction is the railroad junction, and that was the space for, Rock Island, Pacific, and all the other railways. And a lot of people came from the South and other places, Mexico, to come, and they ended up here in Valley Junction.
Nice. So, one thing that I've noticed about you is that you really push multicultures.
Very much, because that's how I grew up. And a lot of people think because I'm African American, that I would just support and promote African American, and they're like, why multicultural? I said, because that's how I grew up. Valley Junction was a very diverse, mixed neighborhood, and at one time, West Des Moines was just Valley Junction. So we were just all in this space, right? And so we grew up together, There were African Americans, there were Hispanics, there were Italians. It's just like every European flavor was part of the junction, right? And we just had more, there's dissension everywhere. but we had more love than hate, right? And so we were able to conquer and come over a lot of things. And, you know, during the times of the civil rights, this, that, and the other, our community found a way to be together. We found a way to respect each other and to love each other's cultures. And so we grew up that way. And even still, a lot of our families, 5, 6 generations, we are still very, very close.
Mm-hmm. And you guys, as a community, created that, right? As far as that sense of community.
Intentionally.
Intentionally.
And that's what I said. Our parents, the reason why we're together now is because our parents purposed it to be that way. Mm-hmm. When we were young, not only did they work together, they played together. Right? So on the weekends, the dads, because they were skilled. They were, drywall workers, cement workers, bricklayers. They were, it was a union neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So our dads were very skilled. And during the weekday, they make their money. But then on the weekend, it was a trade and barter type of situation. So if there was a fence that needed to be fixed, whoever was skilled in that area was the foreman.
Okay.
And then the rest of the men in the neighborhood would follow that direction. So every weekend, things would get fixed. The fence, your plumbing, or whatever. And the trade and barter was just food. The moms would cook. So, when the men got done fixing the fence, they might get some chicken, they might get spaghetti, they might get enchiladas, they might get some ribs. So the exchange was just to feed them, right? And we had a couple corner grocery stores, and one of them go down to Brody's, get the men something to drink, the moms would cook, and then the neighborhood would get fixed.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just feed me.
That's all it was, because there was no money, no money, except if you needed to get the materials.
Right.
And other than that, there was no money exchange.
Yeah.
My grandpa was sold barbecue. He had a little juke joint on the back of the house. And so I'd take a couple slabs of ribs a block over to Miss Meza, and she'd give me a couple dozen tacos. I give her the ribs, and that was the exchange, right? Mm-hmm. That's how we grew up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that just sounds like, from the very beginning, it was community, a sense of community, belonging, right? Teamwork.
Inclusive.
Come on, working together. Humbling yourself. Like you said, someone's being a foreman, the other one's taking the lead, right?
Because they had the skill.
Because they had the skills,
right?
And then whoever else had the skill, then they could become the foreman. But everyone worked together.
They did.
Right. And it wasn't just it was we, right?
We. When my mom and dad built their house down in the area, hardly no one had ever did that before, tore our house down and rebuilt. My mom and dad could only afford the frame. So the house got framed, and then for months, we just walked through the studs. But then on the weekends, my dad would bring home a different person. One weekend, it would be the electrician. And we get we start getting the house wired and stuff like that. And a few weeks later, he'd come home and it would be the drywall people. And then, but so that's how our house got put together. It was from the men in the community, piece by piece, week by week, as my mom and dad could afford it. Mm-hmm. The community helped put it together.
Mm. So how does it feel when you hear of, let's say, some of your friends or just people talking in general, how it's almost like a saying, I don't even know my neighbors? How does that resonate with you?
I tell people, get to know your neighbors, because there's, I would not want to live in a space where I didn't know the people next door. I don't want to live in a space where, even now, my brother's next door. If I run out of coffee, I can just go in there and get some coffee. Mm-hmm. If he can come over to me, and it's just that sense of community is knowing your neighbors is part of it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's because family creates a community. And then you can come out and then know your neighbors. And, for over 30 years, we have a big block party. And everybody on the block is a part of it. Right? And then that's how you get to know each other. You share dishes, you share traditions, and that's what we did. We shared our cultures. I remember one of my best childhood friends, she went to Catholic church, right? Well, I didn't know protocol, right? So they're bending down, they're getting up, and they're saying different things. And I'm looking at her, and she's like, "You're okay. You just, it's like, because I don't want to be disrespectful." She was like, "No, you're good." But then when she came to my Baptist church, we're clapping.
Come on.
And I'm telling her, you can clap.
Right. You can dance, you can do whatever.
You can get up. But that's how we learn,
Yes,
right?
right.
I was young. I learned how to corrido because we'd go to the Hispanic dances and everything. And so we mix cultures all the time, and it wasn't by accident. Our parents were intentional. They didn't just work together. We, lived together.
Lived together, yeah.
We lived together, not just we lived together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
in the real sense of the word.
Yeah. So, I remember when I first met you was probably about 3 years ago, and it was at it was an event hosted by BUP, Black Urban Professional. It was at the Jasper Winery.
Right.
And I was walking around because I didn't really know anyone. I'm walking around getting my business cards, and I'm fresh, trying to get into business out here, get it established out here. So I'm Kenny, do the math, and then but we started talking, and we kind of had a long conversation. You were sitting to the side with your family. It was probably about 6 or 7 of you guys, and then we just started talking. He's like, "You know what? Come to my festival. I got a multicultural festival." I'm like, "For real?" You got and he was like, "Yeah, come to that." And I'm glad that I took up that offer, and it was a blessing just to, just for you to ask me to be a part of it, but just the difference of cultures you see at that event, the different vendors and the different food vendors and arts and crafts and entertainment. Come on,
right.
You're seeing different cultures and the love, the sense of community and the love. And Valley Junction is not that big.
It's not. It's
not that big in comparison to the West Des Moines and Des Moines in general.
Right.
It's not that big, but I mean, just I felt the sense of community, and it's kind of like, it kind of reminded me of Cheers in a way.
Everybody knows everybody.
Everybody knows everyone. It just kind of feels like that. Everybody knows your name, and it was very homely, and I'm glad I've been a part of that. Almost every year. There's only a year I wasn't part of that. I look forward to your event every summer because I know that as far as, especially like what I'm doing with Do the Math, because I want to make sure that I'm tapping into different neighborhoods, different cultures, right? And I know I get access to that in different cities as well, but I just know that something great is going to come out of the people I connect with at your multicultural event. You might want to share a little bit about the Taste of the Junction Multicultural Festival.
Exactly. So when you came, I knew you would be a good fit because your organization embodies what we've grown up with, right? Mm-hmm. And so at Taste of the Junction, we're intentional. When you see the variety of vendors, the music, everything is real intentional. And it's we invite entertainers that draw multicultural crowds. So a lot of people are like, we want to play at your festival. So what we do is we go listen to them and we look at their audience. And if they're pulling a multicultural crowd, then we'll put them on the list as a potential person that can come and be at the festival because we're real intentional like that. Throughout the course of the day, we want to have a variety of flavor, whether it's the entertainment, whether it's the food, and whether it's the people. And, every entertainer has their following. So when you make sure that they pull a multicultural crowd, the street is going to be like that. And then we know it's going to be a nice blend. Right.
So you don't just focus on the band or the entertainer. You focus on their following, the type of following, making sure that the following is representation of multicultural.
That part, the kind of people that embrace that, like-minded people. Right. Mm-hmm. And, there's some people, I remember there was a man, I don't know if he was from Milo or wherever he was, but he had not been in a multicultural environment. And he wanted to, who runs this thing, right? And he wanted to find me, and he said, I have never been in a space like this before. I never would have thought I would have even enjoyed being in a space like this, a multicultural space. He said, I am having the time of my life, and he's like, and I've lived, I don't know if it was Milo, but somewhere, he said, all my life, he said, but this is the first time that he said, I've been down to Valley Junction, he said, but I haven't been to the Taste.
Come on.
And he said, I am enjoying every minute of it. So we invite people every year. People come from 9, 10, 11 states for this. This is a destination event now. And I tell people, come back home just once a year. Put your toe in the junction.
Right.
And then you don't have to come to stay. Go back wherever you live and take that spirit back with you.
Take it back.
Take that spirit back with you and share wherever you live what it feels like to know your neighbor, what it feels like to interact with your neighbor and share each other's cultures, not to change each other, but just to respect each other and learn from each other. And that's how you can respect people, is learn their cultures.
Learn their culture.
Yeah.
Right.
And so intentionally we do that. And like I say, we have people coming in from 9-10 different states as far as California, D.C., Michigan, Texas. I mean, people are flying in for this event. And it's good for the city because while they're there, they're staying in hotels, they're shopping, they're, they go out to Adventureland, they're at Jordan Creek, and they're moving around the city while they're here. So, and it has some people giving a pause to like, oh, Iowa, I didn't even know that you guys did it like this. So there's some people that never thought of Iowa are now thinking, well, maybe. And then there's people that's been gone for like 30 years or more. And they're like, I might need to come back home because it's a lot different than, what it was. And that was intentional as well. When I created Taste of the Junction, I wasn't trying to compete with anything. I just wanted to complement what was already being done. Because Valley Junction is a rich district, right? And there's so much history and so many great things that happened down there. I just wanted to add a little seasoning salt to it.
Yeah.
And complement what was already going on.
I like how, your organization is called the Taste of the Junction. So at first when I heard about it, I thought it was just a food festival.
Like I thought your thing was just academics.
Right.
Math.
Everybody think math is right. But it's the taste, the cuisines, the people, of course, the food, the conversation, the community, and it's everything.
It's an experience. Right? And there's a lot of different reasons why I named it the Taste, but one of them was because they're like the first and second generations are already deceased. They're already under the ground, right? And so we can't tell the whole story, but we can give you a taste.
Repeat that. Go ahead and run that back.
We can't tell you the whole story. 1-2 generations are already gone. But the stories that we remember, and especially, people of color, a lot of our stories are oral. Right. So storytelling, that's why the Junction speaks. Storytelling is a huge piece because that's how we learned, just sitting in our living rooms, right? And I wanted to bring our stories out into the community. I said people need to know not how we grew up, but just how we are as a people. And that's one thing about people from the Junction. People are from the Junction because we're going to hug you. We're going to embrace, right? And, that was intentional. But it's like we don't know all the story, but we know enough. To just give you a taste.
And keep it going. Yeah. That's awesome. I like that. Taste.
Just a taste.
Yeah, you sharing history right now. Good.
And then I'm thinking, forward thinking. Taste of Chicago, taste of Minnesota, taste of the Junction. Yeah. So, as this thing grows and it morphs, and it's morphing, we thought we were going to stay down in the Junction until we outgrow it. And we were already pushed out. We used to just be on one street. Now we've pushed out to 4th Street. All the food trucks are. So we're growing. Yeah.
Speaking of food, I got to do a shout out to I do not know the vendor, but their street tacos. This last time around, this vendor, I don't know the name, but oh my God! I mean, I'm setting up. I'm sweating, trying to set up, get everything ready to go, rushing, just to make sure everything was set up before the festival started. I'm eating 2 or 3 tacos. I'm going back and forth, getting 2 or 3 tacos. Like, you know what? I need to eat some of these tacos before a lot of people come because I know I'm not going to really be able to eat a whole lot, but those tacos were so good. And I don't know the name of the company, but...
I think it's Shale Taqueria. They've been with us for several years, and they're in the neighborhood.
They're in the neighborhood.
They're in the neighborhood. They set their truck up just like 4 blocks from 5th Street. So we get to taste that. We get to taste it.
Okay, yeah. And their package of salsa, I mean, they gave you a nice size. So it was good food, and I definitely remember that. I mean, but all the cuisines are good. I've had barbecue down there, and then you guys have a bar set up as well. I mean, it's just a lot of different
Right. We wanted to make sure that people could have a nice, healthy mix,
Right.
a variety, but then not to compete. So
Not to
we
compete.
don't want to have 2 or 3 barbecue, 2 or 3 people selling tacos, things like that. So we just try to get a nice sampling of vendors so that all vendors can. All vendors have always made money. They've
Right.
never even broke even. All vendors have always. Can we come back next year?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how we want it to be. We want it to be like a win-win. They're like, why are your rates so low? It's like, because we want you to be here.
Right.
We're not trying to like make money off the event. We're trying to create an experience, right? It's a gathering,
It's a gathering.
right? And we want it to be a win-win for everyone. So, we have some great sponsors. We have some great supporters. And then we try to keep it so that it's free. Free and open to the public is the point, right?
So I know you kind of mentioned, Chicago, and you name dropped a few other cities. So that was kind of one of my final questions. But let's go ahead and jump into that right now. So where do you see it going as far as Taste of the Junction? Maybe just give me a taste.
Right. Just a taste of that. It's like we want to grow it. We want to outgrow the street, but we want it to be a huge multicultural festival. West Des Moines, Greater Des Moines has a lot of festivals. We thought, why do we have to keep going to Des Moines? Not that we don't support, because we do, but it's like West Des Moines is big enough now.
It is.
That we should be hosting our own festivals. Yeah. And so that's the goal. I want it to be one of the most premier, largest festivals in West Des Moines that attracts people from all over the country.
All over.
Yeah, and we're headed in that way, and that's the whole goal, just so that people can come back, because a lot of times on paper, you don't see us, and when people look at Iowa, they think it's a flyover state, and then when they see us, they're like, "There's black people in Iowa." It's like, of course there are. Right. Is there diversity in Iowa? Of course it is, but on paper, sometimes you look, 2%. When you look at our numbers, 17%, people can't visualize what that looks like. And I tell them, come on and have a taste. Just come and see. Yeah, I said, you have to see it. I said, because on paper, it may not look so attractive. And especially if people are used to coming from more diverse cities. But I invite people just to come and have a taste and just see.
Just to see.
Yeah. And people are so impressed. And that's the other thing. People have come from a lot of metropolitan cities, but they said there's nothing like the Junction.
Yeah, I've actually met a few people from out the state from your event, and one couple in particular, they were they came in from Milwaukee. Yeah, they came in from Milwaukee for the event, and they enjoyed it. I'm like, you from Milwaukee? I'm like, yeah, we come here. And I'm like, wow, okay. Not saying that I'm surprised, but that's a good thing that people want to travel to come to this event. So, and that says a lot about you. That says a lot about where it's going, And
that's the whole thing, we want to bring a talent attraction in. And when people come to the city, they want to know what's there for me to do after 5, after I get off of work and after I go home and on the weekend, what is it for our families to do? And so that was the thing, just to add some flavor to what like I said, we have a beautiful city. There's so many things that go on, right? This is just one other thing.
Yeah. We got these cookies right in front of us right now. First of all, thank you for bringing these. I did kind of text you, a few hours ago, just say, hey, if you want to bring something, just to kind of have on display. But let's talk about your business, Shelly's Sugar Shack.
Yeah, so these businesses kind of started simultaneously. I did a whole 34-year career in telecommunications, right? So when I retired, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I just knew I didn't want to really work I didn't want to go get another 40-hour-a-week job, right? And it was my kids. My kids said, Mom, why don't you sell your cookies? I always made them over the holidays for my family for many, many years. And I'm like, sell my cookies? And they're like, yeah, sell your cookies. And so one year I make these type of trays for my family. They said, just make some extra trays. And they said, we're going to put them on Facebook. I wasn't even sure what Facebook was back then, 2011. And so I made some extra trays, and they put them out on Facebook, and they just sold like so quick. I was like, oh. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to retire and I'm going to start a bakery. Right. No, it was just a suggestion, and I followed up on it. And over the holidays, I thought about it, and I thought, wow, those sold really quick. Maybe. And so I started in my home because I wasn't sure if I wanted to like have a business. I didn't even know how to do a business, right? I worked for 34 years. But yeah, it just started off as a suggestion, and like for the first 2 years, the only thing I sold was a sugar cookie. You could get it plain, sprinkled, or frosted. Mm-hmm. And now we have a full menu. One of the number one things is a caramel cake.
Okay.
Ever started doing the cake, the caramel cake is number one. The sugar cookie and my mom's peach cobbler recipe, right?
Okay.
But we have a full menu. But
chocolate chips.
Chocolate chip, the red velvet,
yep.
The strawberry cake. I mean, and all of those things were added on the menu just by people asking, can you make your mom's sweet potato pie? I'm like, I can try. Can you make your mom's peach cobbler? I said, if you want to be the first one, sure, I'll try it. You know what I mean? So the menu grow just off of people asking, because they know our family come from a family of cooks, and they know it, right? Our family is known. If you come to our block, one thing you're going to do is eat. Mm-hmm. Good food. But yeah, when I started my bakery, I used to run up and down University Avenue corridor.
Okay.
And it was the barbers and the beauty salons that every Saturday we would go in and out of their shops with their permission, and their patrons, while they're waiting to get their hair cut and their hair done, would purchase our cookies. And we used to package them in these little cups. Mm-hmm. And we put the cake in these little individual, and all my grandkids would carry them in little baskets.
Okay.
Right? So for like 5 years, that was the business model, right? And now we've evolved, and we're just curbside. Mm-hmm. We're curbside pickup. Yeah.
One thing you mentioned to me before the recording of this was how how your business wouldn't be what it was if it wasn't for barbershops and beauty salons.
I'm telling you, it was the black barber and beauty salons. A lot of people think, there's black people don't support black businesses. That's not my story. That's not my story at all. Had it not been for the barber and the beauty salons, and especially I have to give a shout out to Rob Presswood.
Okay.
Because
shout out to Rob.
he was the one that kind of introduced me to the city in a way, because he let me set up in his parking lot one Drake Relays weekend. And I'm like, Rob, I'm really not real urban. I'm out here in West Des Moines. He's like, no. He said, come on. He said, you're going to be fine. I'm like, oh. I was kind of nervous about it, but he said, you're going to be just fine. And by him allowing me to set up like that, it exposed me to everyone, and the rest is history.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Rob is a great person. He supports anyone that's trying to do business. He will support. Mm-hmm. And even though I wasn't in the barber business, I was in the sugar business. He supported me.
He supported you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all the other barbers and all the other salons. And like I say, had it not been for them, we used to call it running down that university corridor, I don't think I'd be still in business.
And then you also mentioned as far as how it started during the COVID.
It did. Now, during COVID, a lot of businesses went out of business. It was just a rough time, right? But for me, again, not my story. When COVID came, that's when my business did another spike, because people are at home. They're unsure what life is going to be like. They're stressing like crazy, and stress and sugar go together. Mm-hmm. And so people were at home. They had more money extra money to spend because they weren't working, not running back and forth. People are working from home, and people were being quarantined. So I shifted the business to curbside because I used to deliver everywhere. But I shifted to the curbside, and so during COVID, it gave people an opportunity to come out of their home And just like curbside pickup, it was reasonably safe. You know what I mean? Just to hand it to them. They had on their mask. I had on mine. And they had an outing, and they were getting some stress relief, some sugar.
Go. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before I forget, I do want to mention that you've always helped me out as far as anything, putting my name out there and making sure you're exposing me, even as far as the Taste of the Junction Multicultural Festival. You're like, Kenny, I got a good spot for you this year. I got you this year. I'm going to take care of you. But I appreciate that you always looking out for me. And, one thing I definitely want to mention is that, you posted something about a year ago, and you had a pop-up at West Elm store and furniture store in East Village. And one thing I try to do, which you do a whole lot, anytime there's an event, you're there. You walk through with your family, you go show support. And that day I wanted to show support just by coming down, buy some cookies, and, met some of the staff at West Elms. But you kind of hooked me up to have a pop-up there as well. And I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is that, sometimes organizations or businesses don't want to help you out, right? Unless they can put their name on it.
Like, what's in it for me?
They can be on the photo op or whatnot. By the kindness of your heart, you just wanted to help me out, and I really appreciate that. And, I think that ties into the culture of the Valley Junction. Like you said, it's community. It's helping each other out, right?
Absolutely.
It's not about me. It's about us. Let's all win. Let's all help each other out, and to the benefit of all of us. And that's one thing I mentioned about you. And then also, every time I see you, always compliment me like, Kenny, keep going. Keep going, right? I saw you, maybe 3 weeks ago, right before the election.
Right.
Right, at Akil's house, right? Outside, he had a get-together there with some of the politicians and whatnot that were running. And you said, yeah, Kenny, keep doing what you're doing. The community needs you. And I appreciate that, knowing that you're always, giving words of encouragement and doing whatever you can to help my business.
Yeah. It's important. It's important to support people, right? It's like not only yourself, and especially after I came out of corporate and turned into an entrepreneur, not knowing what I was doing, I'm so grateful for all the people that support me, right? And so I know what that feels like when you're trying to do something. It is just so good to look out in the audience and see a familiar face that you know. And even if they know, I know you don't know what you're doing yet, but I'm still here to cheer you on, right? And that was another thing. We grew up that way. We grew up supporting. We grew up trading. We grew up bartering. And we understand what it means to be the win to someone else. You know what I'm saying? And if we can do more of that, our communities will be stronger. Yeah. We're going to be able to stay together if when someone's trying to do something, show up.
Show up.
Just show up.
Show up, y'all.
Just show up. That's all you have to do.
Yeah. Even if you just walk through, still show up, because that means a lot.
When we were young, my mom and dad and other leaders in our community, they'd go to these community meetings. We did not even know what the subject was. We just knew they were out there in the struggle, trying to fight to make things better for the community. And that's what they say, just show up. What do you want us to do? Sit there. Don't smile. So we go to the meetings. Then afterwards, we're like, what were we there for? And then they would brief us and they taught us, because, my parents were coming up during the civil rights and people were really out in the street and they were advocating. And I tell people all the time that it wasn't just black people. It was white people, it was Hispanic people. It was the neighborhood that was fighting for everything. Right? Not just their cause or not just my cause. They taught us how to work together for a cause. They taught us how to be in solidarity and how you can get things done if you show up as a united front, right?
United front.
As a united front. So when they look out in the audience and they see the whole neighborhood, they're like...
And they're not smiling.
They're for it. There's power in solidarity. Yeah. There's power in being together. There's power when you're putting wind beneath someone else's wings. Not for your benefit.
Not for your benefit.
There's power in that.
There's power in that. Yeah.
That's why I like to show up for people.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And I see you. Yeah. Yeah. And I appreciate that. And I could be from Juneteenth to Sister Soul Fest to anything that's going on in Elegant Davis Park. You always show up. So
They said the young is for war and the older for counsel, right? So I've been on the front line. And, when I retired, I took a couple steps back, but I still want to be there. But I don't need to be on the front line. We got some nice, young, talented warriors on the front line. I just like to be in the audience just to encourage them to keep going.
Yeah. Good. And keep doing that, too, because I know we all appreciate that as a community. So, and, I mean, we can see it's evident as far as what you're doing in the West Des Moines area. And what you have been doing is just as far as the history of the Longs in the Valley Junction, West Des Moines area. And then speaking on that, I got to give you a congratulations to your family. Back in September, your family was honored with a street, right?
We were.
Yeah. So the John E. and Barbara Long Honorary Roadway in the Valley Junction area, and it's from, what street is it from?
It's from 1st to 14th on Maple Street.
On Maple Street.
And it's like the first street in the history of West Des Moines, to be named after a citizen.
Yes.
Right? And that was something that we pushed for. My dad died in 2010, and that was when we first petitioned the city to name the street after him. And my mom, she's so humble and sweet. She just wanted just get the street named after Dad. But, the two are one. So when we wanted both of their names, on there. But from 2010, it took us that long to get it done. And off and on, we would petition the city for that, to grant that request. And it was very historic. It's very monumental, and now the goal on that is to get it throughout all Maple Street.
Come on.
So like right now, it's just in the heart of the junction, because that's where their heart was at. My mom and dad were huge advocates, so just getting it from 1st to 14th is it's a huge deal. I try to turn down that street every day that I can.
You better smile. You turn that corner.
There's markers on 1st Street. There's a marker on 5th Street. There's a marker on 8th Street, and then down on 14th Street.
Okay.
Yeah. Huge.
So what lessons can people learn from your family's legacy in the area? What is something you feel like they can learn? Just if they knew of the rich history of Valley Junction and how implemental your family was, what do you think they can learn from that?
Well, I would think just show up. Show up, because my mom and dad taught us that if you show up, you can have voice, right? And my dad was, like I say, he was a union worker, and he was in the union. He was an officer and everything like that. And he taught us you can just be at a meeting. You can stand up and make a motion. All you got to get is somebody to second it. And it is what it is, right? And same thing when you go into these city council meetings. My mom and dad were at over 90% of city council meetings. My dad was real astute with the planning and zoning. He understood what they were talking about, and as the city was growing, he understood that, right? And a lot of things that people are benefiting from out of the junction is because that they were there advocating for it. The sewers, the streets, the curbs, the affordable housing, a lot of things they didn't get to live to see are happening now because of their advocacy work. And that work would not have been done if they weren't there. You have to be in the room. You got to be in that space. My mom and dad said, even if you don't know what's going on, you sit there and listen and you learn. And when my dad passed away, he had a little briefcase, and it just had this little dictionary in it. Because if he didn't understand something, he opened it up. So when people are talking, he wanted to make sure he understood, what was going on. So they taught us to show up, be a voice, and sometimes if you can't be a voice, just be in the crowd as a supporter.
So you probably don't remember this this conversation I chimed in on. This is when Deidre DeGier was running for governor.
My girl.
Shout out to Deidre and Marvin DeGier. But it was at a Kamala husband was down, and it was kind of like a reception afterwards type deal. I forgot, it was like maybe off of Court Avenue, but it was kind of like I don't know. It was kind of like a reception and whatnot. So, anyways, it was you, Renee Hardman, Cameron Middlebrook. Shout out to Cameron and Renee Hardman, and myself. Just kind of having like a side conversation. It was more or less you guys talking, but I was just kind of listening and whatnot. And I just thought about this. One thing I remember you mentioning was, you said, you know what? I show up to the city council meetings. I be at these city council meetings for the city of West Des Moines. And you mentioned how it's important that people show up to the city council meetings. And how you even mentioned that, I just kind of wish maybe even more African Americans be there to represent, to be at these city council meetings, because it's important to be at these meetings, And that's just kind of mirroring what you're just saying now. Like you said, I mean, you show up. And that just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of like hits home now, because I remember you saying that a few years ago. And now just hearing more as far as your family and whatnot, like you said, show up. Just show up, just be there.
It's important to be in the room. And I have to say, shout out to Renee Hardman, because she's the first African-American woman
Yes.
to be on the West Des Moines City Council, right? And so her being at the table helped move that street naming along, because we had been trying, and we had been trying, and we had been trying. But when she got up at the table, then she was able to be in some spaces that we weren't, and she could advocate on the internally. And then also, Renee was really instrumental in West Des Moines getting the DEI director, Audrey Kennis.
Yes.
So she's staff, right? Another person at the table, right? So as we're coming up and we're advocating, we're asking and requesting, they could take it further. They were internal. So it's just important. People think the larger elections and appointments are what's critical, but it's those local appointments. Being on the library board, being on the Human Rights Commission and things like that, because that's where decisions that are made that affect our daily lives are at the local level. And so had it not been for people like Renee, people like Audrey, being in there and at the table, advocating for, speaking for, because, when you're at the city council, there's like a 5-minute community space, and then after that, you can't speak anymore, right? But see, Renee and Audrey, they can speak after the meeting.
After.
And not only them. I mean, we had great support from, our mayor, Russ Trimble, and Tom, so it's not just them, because some people think you just have to go to a person that looks like you. But your allies, we had several allies. When that vote went in, it was a unanimous vote 4-0, and it wasn't just Renee, right? So, yeah.
It takes everyone.
It takes all of us.
It takes all of us.
Working together, right? And reaching across. And that was another thing my dad told me when he was out there advocating. He said, Shell, he said, all white people ain't bad.
Amen.
And all black people ain't good.
Amen again.
He said, don't forget that.
Don't forget that.
And so that was his way of letting us know, and we seen it. When they used to go out as a united front, it was everybody. We had allies, across generations, across religions, across political. It was allies coming together for common causes. And so that's that. If we want to move the community, we have to be allies from everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Let's do it, you guys. Let's do it. Let's keep going, right? Working together as one unit. And that's pretty much the core of Do the Math 24/7. Just kind of, regardless of our differences, let's work together, right? And the differences is just a great thing.
Like for what's good.
Right, for what's good.
For what's good.
For what's good.
What's good, for what's right. And and sometimes it's like your ideal may not rise to the top, but it's like when we put it together, we're uplifting what's good.
What's good.
What's going to be the best, right? And the more that we do of that, it's going to strengthen our neighborhood. It's going to strengthen our relationships. And, at the end of the day, we're still going to be who we are individually. And that's by design. But we've got to come together. As allies on things that matter, something that's going to move us. And we're going to be doing things that we're not going to live to see. But we have people behind us that we need to do it for.
Mm-hmm. So, what final message would you want, if your family can give a message to the community? What would that message be, as far as from your legacy, your history, everything that your parents and forefathers advocated for?
Mm-hmm.
What would be a message you would want to convey to the community for the generations to come?
Mm-hmm. We matter. We all matter. And some people think, oh, just little old me, or, oh, well, how can I make a difference? We all matter.
We matter.
Show up.
Show up.
Even if you don't have anything to say.
Yeah.
Just show up.
Just show up.
And that's what I would say. It's like, because I know just by showing up, we've made a difference. We're not always at the mic. We're not always at the front. We're just in the room. And I know it makes a difference. It has made a difference.
Mm-hmm. Strength in numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's math, y'all. Okay, so for the final question is, I like to ask everyone is to do the math 24/7, the math equation. So it's kind of correlate to our message. So what are some things, or what are something that you can add, something that that can, we can subtract and multiply, and that would result to what? And that could be anything. It can be from personal, from community, just whatever.
Right, and so being so community minded, it's like we've got to add more love.
Add more love.
Subtract the division, and then by doing so, that's going to equal a stronger community, because we're better together.
Better together.
We are better together. And there's that African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, you got to take somebody with you.
You got to take someone with you. Yeah, that's good.
And that's it. That's all.
Yeah. Eliminate the division, y'all. Let's do that.
Add more love.
Add more love, right?
Because if you have more love, you're going to have more peace, right? And we can do this. And if you don't know how, come and get a taste of the junction.
Right.
We'll show you how to do it.
Make sure you get some of this sugar, right? Get some sugar while you're there. Thank you for being on the show. Is there any last words of wisdom you may want to share, or?
What I would say is,
even as far as first of all, it's our last episode of the year, right? Of 2024. So if there's anything that you may want to share as far as that, or just any words of wisdom as far as from this being our last episode.
Right. What I would say is surround yourself with like-minded people. Surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. And then share your vision, your hope, your dreams and desires, and then go together.
Go together. Okay.
And we can go far.
We can go far. Okay. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, words of wisdom. As far as how can people get in contact with your business? You want to share your social media information? Or?
Sure. So for the Sugar Shack.
Let me hold on. For the Sugar Shack.
It's sugarshackdsm.com, and sugar is SHUGGA for the website. And then for Taste of the Junction, tasteofthejunction.org. And both of the businesses, the nonprofit and the bakery, we're on Facebook, so you can follow us on Facebook. And there's a website for both of the businesses.
Okay.
So we appreciate your support.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for being on the show. I appreciate it. I know it's a busy time right now. It's the holidays. You're right before Christmas. I got you in a little bit after Thanksgiving, but a lot more before Christmas time, so you can, kind of do what you do. I know you're busy, so I really appreciate you taking the time out and just to kind of be here. And if you don't mind, can you share your slogan? Hey, sugar.
Oh yeah, for the for the bakery, it's like, thanks, sugar.
Thanks, sugar. There you go.
Thanks, sugar.
Thanks, sugar. Thank you guys again for tuning in for Do the Math 24/7's Math Talk. I appreciate you guys tuning in every time we have an episode. This is the last episode of the year, so thank you all for tuning in for the whole year. It's my first year, so I felt great about the whole experience. I'm looking forward to next year to see what next year has ahead. But until that time, thank you for tuning in, and remember, do the math 24/7.
Thank you.
Thank you.